Help me hit 7,000 subscribers. Support the video with a like and share your thoughts in the comments. I read everyone. Thank you. My name's Daniel, and I used to think that loving someone enough meant they'd stay. I was 36 when my wife, Melissa, got the call that changed everything. She'd been chasing her dream job 4 years, a senior marketing position in a big firm up in New York. We lived in Charlotte then, in a quiet neighborhood with a dog that barked too much and neighbors who waved every morning. It wasn't glamorous, but it was ours. The night she got the offer, she didn't even try to hide her excitement. I remember her eyes, bright, alive in a way I hadn't seen in a while. She jumped into my arms, laughing. I told her, "I'm proud of you," and I meant it. But somewhere behind my smile, I felt the faint tremor of distance already forming. At first, she said it would just be temporary, a year or so until we figured things out. I offered to move with her, but she told me it wasn't practical. She needed to focus, she said. The words were calm, but the meaning was sharp. I wasn't part of that dream, not anymore. We tried the long-distance thing for 6 months. Calls became texts, texts became delays, and delays became silence. I could feel her slipping away one unread message at a time. I visited once in that first year. Her apartment was beautiful, filled with designer furniture and city noise. But she wasn't the same woman who used to dance barefoot in our kitchen while cooking pasta. She was polished now, confident, busy, untouchable. That night, as I lay on her couch, she told me she didn't think it was fair to hold each other back. Fairness. That's the word she used to end 7 years of marriage. I just nodded because arguing felt useless. She wasn't cruel, not directly, just indifferent. That's worse in some ways. She left me with the house, the dog, and a quiet that felt like punishment. For a long time, I replayed our last conversation in my head, wondering when love had turned into a burden for her. I started going for long drives at night, pretending the movement meant progress. But it didn't. I was stuck in the same emotional traffic for months. Eventually, I sold the house. It didn't feel like home anymore. I moved into a smaller place near Raleigh, started freelancing, and picked up woodworking as a hobby. There's something calming about building something solid after watching everything you loved fall apart. 2 years passed. I hadn't heard from her, not once. I figured she was thriving, traveling, working, living the life she always wanted. And honestly, I hoped she was. I didn't hate her. I was just done waiting for someone who'd already left the room. Then one morning, I got a message from a number I didn't recognize. It was short. "Hey Daniel, can we talk? It's Melissa." I stared at it for a long time. The last time I saw her, she was walking away with a suitcase and a future too bright for both of us. Now she wanted to talk. Against my better judgment, I replied. She suggested coffee, neutral ground. We met at a small cafe halfway between our cities. When she walked in, I almost didn't recognize her. She looked tired, not in the way that comes from lack of sleep, but in the way that comes from too much pretending. The sparkle that once filled her eyes had dulled. "Wow," I said quietly. "It's been a while." She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "Yeah, it really has." For a moment we just sat there, two strangers with shared history. I expected small talk, maybe polite regret. Instead, she sighed and said, "I messed up, Daniel." I didn't say anything. I just waited. She started telling me about her life. How the company that hired her had been everything she dreamed of until it wasn't. How she got caught in office politics. How the dream became a cage made of deadlines and ambition. And then she said something that froze me completely. "I left someone for that job, Daniel. Someone who believed in me more than I believed in him. And I lost more than I gained." I wasn't sure if she wanted forgiveness or sympathy. Maybe both. But I didn't feel either. Just a strange kind of peace. I asked her what she wanted from me now, and she said softly, "Just a chance to talk. Maybe to make things right." I leaned back, studying her face. The woman I once loved, now a faded version of her own dream. I could tell karma had already done its work. I listened quietly, letting her words hang in the air. The cafe buzzed around us, but all I could hear was the weight of her regret. She looked smaller somehow, no longer the untouchable, polished woman I'd glimpsed 2 years ago. Her career had given her everything she thought she wanted, except peace, satisfaction, and maybe even self-respect. Melissa's tone grew quieter, almost fragile. Daniel, I thought I could have it all. I thought I could chase my dream and still keep my life. But I miscalculated. I lost the man who would have been there no matter what. And I realized too late that I can't buy loyalty or love with success. I leaned forward slightly. And now? I asked softly. She shook her head. Now? Now I'm just paying for my choices. Everything I sacrificed to climb that ladder, it doesn't feel like climbing anymore. Feels hollow. I see it now. It was a strange sensation. Sitting across from someone who had hurt me so profoundly, feeling almost calm. The anger, the resentment, the longing I carried for so long. It had lost its grip. Not because I forgave her, but because the universe had already balanced the scales. I didn't need to orchestrate revenge. Life had done it. Melissa's dream job had turned out to be a double-edged sword. The promotion she fought so hard for came with a boss who treated her like a disposable asset, colleagues who envied her every success, and endless late nights that left her drained and isolated. Her boyfriend at the time, the one she had left me for, had grown distant as her hours multiplied, and her friendships frayed under the pressure. For all her ambition, she had no one to celebrate her victories with, no one who mattered anyway. I realized then that karma wasn't dramatic. It wasn't a cinematic crash or a loud confrontation. It was quiet, inevitable, and thorough. Life had chipped away at her joy, exposing the cracks she'd ignored. And standing here, I was no longer the one left in pieces. I was whole in ways I hadn't been when she walked away. I took a sip of my coffee, letting the bitter warmth settle in. "I'm glad you told me all this," I said finally. "I needed to hear it. Not for you, but for me." Her eyes flickered with something between shame and relief. I wanted to explain. I wanted you to know it wasn't about you not being enough. It was me, always me. I got lost in the chase." I nodded. She had changed not just in circumstance, but in perspective. And so had I. Those 2 years apart had taught me more about life, patience, and self-worth than the 7 years we spent together. I had learned to rebuild, to find purpose beyond another person, and to value my own peace above anyone else's expectations. Melissa stood up eventually, sighing. "I should go. I don't want to hold you here any longer." I smiled faintly. "Go ahead." "And Daniel?" She hesitated, glancing back. "I'm sorry. Truly." I didn't reply. There was nothing to say. She had learned her lesson and I had found closure. Karma hadn't been mine to enact. It had already arrived, quietly, in the form of her life and the choices she made. Walking out of the cafe, I felt lighter than I had in years. For the first time in a long time, I didn't feel betrayed or abandoned. I felt free. Free from the weight of resentment. Free from the shadow of someone else's ambition. Free to live a life that belonged entirely to me. Over the next few months, I watched her social media from a distance, not out of curiosity or spite, but because life has a way of showing you its balances. Posts of awards and corporate events were often tempered with subtle complaints about exhaustion, loneliness, and stress. The dream job that had seemed perfect on paper was a daily grind, a reminder that success doesn't always bring happiness. Meanwhile, I rebuilt. My freelance work flourished, I traveled, and I reconnected with friends I'd neglected. I even started dating again, carefully, with the patience and understanding that come from heartbreak. Each day reminded me of what truly mattered: respect, love, and presence. Not accolades, not a corner office, not the thrill of ambition at the cost of someone else's heart. Months later, Melissa reached out one last time, a short message that said, "Daniel, I hope you're happy. I've learned my lesson." I didn't respond. I didn't need to. The lesson had been learned on both sides, and the story had run its course. Sometimes, the universe corrects itself quietly, with no fanfare, no dramatic showdowns, no fireworks. Only the slow, inevitable arrival of consequences, and the clarity of those who survive them. I smiled to myself as I closed my phone. 2 years ago, she left me chasing a dream that seemed brighter than our love. But life has a way of setting things straight. She got her dream and I got my peace. Karma didn't need my hand. It was already doing its work. And for the first time in years, I could breathe freely, knowing that I had survived the storm and come out whole.